Ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves often entranced by the idea of demons, beings of darkness and misfortune that seemingly lurk in the shadows of our lives. Yet I invite you to consider a deeper truth: the demons we fear may not be external forces at all, but projections of our own unresolved fears and shadows. In truth, we are not as separate from the world as we think. We are part of a vast, interconnected whole. The energy we put into the world is the energy that finds its way back to us. If we walk through life focused on fear, on the uncertainties and struggles that haunt us, we send ripples of fear out into the universe. And what do we receive in return? More of the same. Fear, doubt, and anxiety attract their own kind, just as light attracts light, darkness attracts darkness. When we focus on the negative, when we dwell on the demons that seem to haunt our every step, we inadvertently give them power. We bring them into our lives. But it doesn't have to be this way. What if I told you that the key to stopping these demons is not in fighting them, but in shifting our perspective? You see, these so-called demons are often reflections of our own inner turmoil, our fears, our insecurities, and our shadow selves. The moment we recognize that these demons are born from within us, we can begin to transcend them. The power of awareness cannot be overstated. When we become conscious of our thoughts, when we recognize the patterns that attract negativity into our lives, we can start to break the cycle. Fear feeds the demons and awareness starves them. As we become aware, we step out of the grip of these lower energies, and we reclaim the power that is rightfully ours. The shadows we fear are not something to resist, but something to understand. Darkness is not our enemy, it is a part of the whole. Like the light, it is necessary for growth, for understanding, and for balance. The more we learn to embrace our own darkness, to understand our fears, the less power they have over us. They lose their grip, and the demons no longer seem so frightening. You might ask, then, how do we stop attracting these demons? The answer is simpler than we imagine. We must cultivate peace. True peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of understanding. When we are at peace within ourselves, when we accept the transient nature of life and release our attachments to people, possessions, and outcomes, the demons find no purchase in our world. In this moment, ask yourself, are you feeding your fears, or are you cultivating a deeper sense of peace and awareness? Are you focused on the light, or are you lingering in the shadows? The truth is that we have the power to change our relationship with the world simply by changing the energy we carry within ourselves. By releasing fear, embracing awareness, and cultivating peace, we can transform our lives and stop attracting that which drains our energy and peace. We often perceive ourselves as separate beings, distinct from the world around us. This perception of separation shapes much of our reality, influencing how we interact with others, how we approach challenges, and how we understand the universe itself. But what if this idea of separation is merely an illusion? What if, in reality, we are all interconnected, not just with one another, but with the entire fabric of existence? At the core of the illusion of separation is the belief that we are isolated, independent entities living in a world that is separate from us. We identify ourselves with our bodies, our thoughts, our personal histories, and our unique experiences. In doing so, we create boundaries, both real and imagined, that define who we are and distinguish us from everything else. This sense of I and other governs much of human interaction. We see ourselves as distinct from nature, from the people around us, from the universe itself. This belief in separation often leads to feelings of fear, competition, and isolation. But this perception is rooted in the limitations of our senses and the way our minds categorize and label the world. If we take a step back and observe the nature of reality more closely, we begin to see that the boundaries we have drawn are far more fluid than they appear. The air we breathe, the food we eat, the relationships we form, all of these things are not isolated to us alone. We are constantly exchanging energy with the world. The cells of our bodies are made from the same elements that form the stars in the sky, the soil beneath our feet, and the plants that grow around us. Our breath is shared with every living being on this planet, and our actions reverberate through the collective consciousness of humanity. This recognition of interconnectedness doesn't just apply to the physical world, but also to the mental and emotional realms. The thoughts we think, the feelings we experience, and the energy we project have a profound effect on the people around us. We are not separate from each other in any meaningful way. Our emotions, both positive and negative, can influence others in ways that go beyond words. A smile from a stranger, an act of kindness, or even a simple gesture can create a wave of goodwill, while fear, anger, or hatred can spread just as easily. The energy we emit is contagious, and it is often through our emotional and mental states that we inadvertently connect with others. The illusion of separation is also reflected in our sense of self. We often define ourselves by our individual experiences, by our accomplishments, and by the labels we adopt. We see ourselves as separate from those around us because we place so much emphasis on what makes us unique. But beneath the surface of these differences, there is a shared humanity, a fundamental connection that transcends individual identity. If we peel away the layers of our ego, our need to distinguish ourselves, to protect our sense of self, we begin to recognize that we are not separate from others. We are, in essence, one with the people we meet, one with the world we inhabit, and one with the universe itself. The illusion of separation also causes us to create divisions that fuel conflict. When we see ourselves as separate from others, whether because of race, religion, nationality, or social status, we create barriers that foster division and misunderstanding. We view the other as different, as something to fear or compete with, rather than as an extension of ourselves. But the truth is, there is no other. We are all connected by the same fundamental energy, the same essence that binds all life together. When we begin to understand this interconnectedness, we naturally let go of the judgments, prejudices, and fears that arise from the illusion of separation. In reality, the boundaries we perceive are not as solid as we think. Everything we experience is an interplay of forces, energies, and connections that form a seamless whole. The illusion of separation is a construct of the mind, a lens through which we view the world that distorts our true nature. When we begin to see beyond this illusion, we recognize that we are not separate from the world around us. We are part of it, inseparable and interconnected. In this realization, we discover a deeper sense of belonging, a deeper sense of peace, and a deeper connection to all that is. The human mind is an incredibly powerful tool, and one of its most profound qualities is its ability to focus. We all know what it's like to become fixated on something, whether it's a thought, a problem, or a goal. In those moments, our attention narrows, and the object of our focus becomes the center of our universe. But here's the thing: whatever we focus on has the potential to grow. This concept is simple yet profound. It means that the energy we direct towards something, whether consciously or unconsciously, amplifies its presence in our lives. What we choose to focus on will inevitably expand. Think about how often we find ourselves ruminating on problems, worries, or past mistakes. The more we focus on them, the more they seem to dominate our thoughts, emotions, and actions. It's like we feed them with our attention, and they grow larger in our perception. The more we think about our fears, the more real they become. If we're focused on something negative, such as the possibility of failure, we might find ourselves paralyzed by the very fear we've created. The mind's tendency to amplify that which we focus on can lock us into cycles of anxiety, self-doubt, or frustration. This is a powerful reminder that the mind does not differentiate between real and imagined threats. It amplifies whatever we give it. This phenomenon isn't limited to negative thoughts. The same principle applies to positive ones. When we focus on the good in our lives, on the things we are grateful for, the people we love, or the opportunities we have, we begin to invite more of those things into our lives. Gratitude, for example, is a powerful force. The more we focus on what we appreciate, the more we begin to see in our world to appreciate. It's as if the universe conspires to bring us more of what we celebrate. Our relationships deepen, our joy expands, and our overall sense of fulfillment grows. Focused attention on love, compassion, and connection can have a profound impact, not just on our emotional state, but also on the way we experience reality. The process by which our focus shapes our experiences is rooted in the law of attraction, a principle that suggests like attracts like. When we focus on positive thoughts and emotions, we begin to resonate at a higher frequency. This shift in energy can attract more of the same into our lives. Similarly, when we dwell on negative thoughts, we vibrate at a lower frequency, which can attract more experiences that reflect that negativity. In essence, the energy we emit through our thoughts and feelings draws in experiences that match that vibration. The idea of what we focus on grows also extends to our goals and aspirations. When we set an intention and direct our focus toward it consistently, we move closer to manifesting that goal. The simple act of placing our attention on a desired outcome sends a clear message to our subconscious mind, signaling what is important to us. Over time, the focused energy starts to shape our actions, decisions, and behaviors. Opportunities that align with our goals begin to appear, and we begin to notice them because our attention is trained on them. Our thoughts shape our reality, and as we consistently focus on a particular vision or aspiration, we bring that vision into sharper focus, ultimately making it more attainable. This principle also applies to our inner growth. When we focus on self-awareness, personal development, or emotional healing, we begin to notice shifts in our inner world. The more we focus on cultivating inner peace, the more peaceful we become. When we focus on learning, growth, and self-improvement, we naturally start to evolve. Our thoughts and intentions align with our actions, and the person we are becoming mirrors the focus we have set. However, this power of focus is a double-edged sword. While it can help us manifest positive experiences and achieve our dreams, it can also lead to unintended consequences if we are not mindful of where we direct our attention. If we focus too much on what is missing in our lives, on what we lack, or on our perceived shortcomings, we amplify those feelings. This only strengthens the belief in scarcity, which can keep us trapped in a cycle of wanting rather than appreciating what we already have. It's important, therefore, to direct our attention with intention and awareness. We must ask ourselves whether our focus is supporting our growth and well-being, or whether it is fueling negativity and self-limiting beliefs. We often hear the term demons used in various contexts, from mythology and religion to psychology and pop culture. In many traditions, demons are thought to be external, malevolent entities that seek to cause harm or to influence individuals in negative ways. But what if the demons we fear are not external at all? What if, instead, they are projections of our own inner turmoil, unresolved emotions, and unacknowledged aspects of ourselves? This idea invites us to reconsider the nature of demons not as external forces, but as reflections of our own consciousness. When we encounter fear, anger, shame, or sadness, we tend to externalize these emotions. We see them as something separate from ourselves, something outside our control. In doing so, we give power to these emotions, allowing them to dominate our lives and shape our experiences. These emotions often take on a life of their own, becoming demons that torment us from within. When we project our fears outward, we inadvertently make them appear as if they are something separate from us, as if they are entities that exist independently and work against us. This projection not only distorts our perception of reality, but also keeps us trapped in a cycle of fear and suffering. The concept of demons as projections is especially evident when we think about the psychological idea of the shadow. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves that we deny, repress, or fail to acknowledge. These are the aspects of our personality that we deem undesirable traits like jealousy, insecurity, or aggression that we suppress in order to maintain a socially acceptable self-image. However, when we refuse to integrate these aspects of ourselves, they do not simply disappear. Instead, they resurface in indirect ways, often manifesting as external threats or as demons that haunt us. The more we resist or deny these shadow aspects, the more they gain power over us. They linger in the subconscious, waiting for an opportunity to reveal themselves. And when they do, they often appear in distorted forms, perhaps as people who mirror our own unresolved issues or as situations that trigger our deepest fears. The demonic experiences we face in life may be nothing more than manifestations of the parts of ourselves that we have refused to acknowledge or accept. For example, if we harbor deep feelings of guilt or shame, we may project those emotions onto others, seeing them as judgmental or critical, when in reality we are simply seeing a reflection of our own self-criticism. If we have unresolved anger or fear, we might encounter individuals or situations that seem to trigger these emotions in us, amplifying our sense of being attacked or oppressed. But in truth, these external triggers are not the source of our pain, they are merely reflecting the unresolved energies within ourselves. Our thoughts and perceptions are powerful tools that shape our reality. When we focus on negativity, when we expect to encounter demons in our lives, we unknowingly create an environment in which those demons can thrive. We become trapped in a feedback loop, where our internal demons, fear, doubt, resentment, are reinforced by our external experiences. The more we believe in these demons, the more real they appear. And the more we give them attention, the more they grow. In this way, we empower the very forces we fear. The key to transforming this dynamic is not to fight the demons, but to confront the source of our fear within ourselves. By acknowledging the shadow within and integrating the parts of ourselves that we have been avoiding, we disempower the projection. Instead of seeing demons as external threats, we begin to recognize them as reflections of our own inner struggles. In doing so, we can break free from the cycle of fear and suffering that these projections create. When we stop projecting our inner turmoil onto the world, we begin to see the world as it truly is, a reflection of our own consciousness. The external world no longer becomes a battleground where demons are constantly attacking us. Instead, it becomes a mirror reflecting our internal state. By transforming our internal world, by healing our wounds, embracing our shadow, and cultivating self-awareness, we can change the way we experience the external world. Ultimately, the demons we encounter are not separate from us. They are projections of our own unresolved emotions, fears, and conflicts. When we learn to face these aspects of ourselves, when we stop projecting them onto others or onto the world, we free ourselves from their grip. The process of facing our demons is not about vanquishing external forces, but about embracing our full humanity, acknowledging the parts of ourselves that we have long ignored, and integrating them into our consciousness. In doing so, we transform our relationship with ourselves and with the world around us, and the demons that once seemed so real fade into the background, powerless in the face of our own self-awareness and acceptance. Fear is a fundamental human experience, one that we all encounter in various forms throughout our lives. It is a natural response to perceived threats, and in many ways it has served as a protective mechanism, alerting us to danger and helping us to survive. However, fear often extends far beyond its initial protective purpose. It can become a pervasive force, influencing our thoughts, behaviors, and decisions in ways that limit our potential and prevent us from fully embracing life. The role of fear is not just to protect us, but also to shape the way we experience the world and how we respond to it. At its core, fear is an emotional reaction to the unknown. It arises when we encounter something that threatens our sense of safety or challenges our beliefs about what is possible. Fear can be triggered by actual, immediate threats such as physical danger, or by imagined dangers, often rooted in past experiences or future uncertainties. This form of fear, which is more psychological than physical, is often where we see its most insidious influence. We fear failure, rejection, change, and the unknown future. These fears, while not always based in immediate reality, can shape our lives profoundly. One of the most striking aspects of fear is its ability to distort our perception of reality. When we are afraid, our mind tends to focus exclusively on the worst-case scenario, magnifying the threat and making it seem larger than it truly is. This mental process often leads to what is known as catastrophizing, where we imagine that the consequences of a situation will be far worse than they actually might be. Our focus becomes so centered on what could go wrong that we overlook the potential for positive outcomes or solutions. Fear, then, doesn't just affect our emotional state, it alters our thought patterns, narrowing our focus to the negative and leaving little room for hope or possibility. Fear also has a powerful effect on our behavior. When we are afraid, we tend to withdraw, avoid, or freeze in the face of challenges. This is a natural response grounded in survival instincts, where the fight or flight response is activated. In many cases, however, this response can become a habit. We avoid confronting our fears, whether they are about taking risks, pursuing new opportunities, or confronting uncomfortable truths. By doing so, we perpetuate the very cycle that fear thrives on. The more we avoid the things we fear, the more they grow in power over us. We begin to believe that the world is a place to be feared, rather than a place to be explored and embraced. Interestingly, fear's power over us is often amplified by our attachment to certainty and control. We fear what we cannot control or predict. The unknown, the unpredictable, is often the source of our deepest anxieties. We crave stability and order, and when those things are threatened, fear steps in to take over. However, the more we cling to control, the more we perpetuate the illusion that we can always dictate the outcome of life. In truth, life is inherently uncertain, and no amount of control can eliminate that uncertainty. Fear, in this way, thrives on our attempts to control everything, and by surrendering to the flow of life, we loosen its grip on us. One of the most insidious aspects of fear is its ability to keep us stuck in a state of inaction. Fear can paralyze us, convincing us that we are not capable or worthy of pursuing our dreams. It can whisper in our ears that we are not enough, that we will fail, or that we will be judged by others. These thoughts can be so overwhelming that we convince ourselves that it's safer to remain in our comfort zones, even if it means sacrificing growth, opportunity, and fulfillment. In this way, fear prevents us from fully experiencing life, from stepping into our potential, and from embracing the unknown with courage and curiosity. However, fear is not inherently bad. It serves a purpose, and if we learn to understand its role, we can shift our relationship with it. Rather than allowing fear to control us, we can begin to see it as a signal, a sign that we are about to step into something new or unfamiliar. Fear is often a companion to growth, signaling that we are on the verge of change. In this sense, fear can be reframed as a teacher, one that shows us where we need to push beyond our comfort zones, where we need to evolve, and where we need to confront the parts of ourselves that are still holding on to limiting beliefs. By acknowledging fear rather than avoiding it, we can transform it. When we face our fears with openness and curiosity, we begin to break free from their hold over us. We realize that the worst-case scenario is rarely as bad as we imagined, and we discover within ourselves a well of courage we never knew existed. Fear loses its power when we stop running from it, and instead allow ourselves to move through it. In doing so, we reclaim our power and free ourselves from the cycle of avoidance and limitation that fear can create. Ultimately, fear is an integral part of the human experience, but it need not define us. When we recognize its role, understand its origins, and face it with awareness and courage, we transform fear from a force of limitation into one of liberation. By doing so, we begin to live not in reaction to fear, but in full, conscious engagement with the present moment, ready to embrace the unknown with trust and openness. Energy is a concept that permeates every aspect of our lives, from the physical to the spiritual, influencing the world around us in ways both tangible and intangible. It is the force that drives motion, the underlying current of life, and the invisible thread that connects all things. But energy is not always easy to understand. We often associate it with physical forms like electricity or fuel, but energy extends far beyond the confines of the material world. It is an essence that flows through all things, from the atoms that make up our bodies to the unseen forces that govern our thoughts, emotions, and relationships. Understanding energy requires us to recognize it not only as something we can measure or manipulate, but as a dynamic, living force that shapes our experiences. In the physical world, energy is the capacity to do work. It is what allows things to move, change, and grow. It is present in every action, from the energy that powers machines to the energy that fuels our own physical bodies. But energy is not just confined to the world of mechanics and physics. It exists within us and between us. Our thoughts, emotions, and actions all emit energy, and this energy has a profound impact on our lives and the lives of others.